What does yoga philosophy say about fill in the blank? This is the kind of question I hear all the time. Students who want a deeper understanding of yoga philosophy will ask, what do the teachings of yoga say about mental health, climate change, politics, the origins of the universe, the nature of consciousness? These are all really great questions because yoga philosophy has something to say about everything. This may be surprising if you think of the project of yoga as having a specific ultimate goal, realization of the true nature of the self. Well, that's a really ambitious goal. To help us get there, yoga philosophy offers perspectives on just about everything so that we can connect our experience of the world to the project of transcendence. But here's the really surprising truth about yoga philosophy. There is no such thing as the teachings of yoga in the sense of there being a singular set of precepts that all point to the same ultimate goal and explain our relationship to the world the same way. What we call yoga philosophy is actually a collection of diverse schools of thought, each with its own view of reality, different practices, and even different ideas about what the ultimate goal of yoga really is. Some are non-dualistic, others see distinction as essential. Some are theistic, some are not. For example, a Buddhist approach to mental health is going to be different from a Vedantic one because Buddhism and Vedanta have different philosophical ideas about the underlying causes of psychological effects. And even within Vedanta, there's no single viewpoint. There are 5 major schools of Vedanta, each with its own take on the relationship between the self, the world, and ultimate reality. One school teaches that only pure consciousness exists and everything else is an illusion. Others say that while everything comes from the same divine source, there's still a meaningful distinction between the self and the supreme. Some see that relationship as fixed. Others see it as fluid. So, depending on which tradition you're hearing from, the answer to a question like, where did the universe come from, could be totally different from it's all an illusion to it's a divine expansion to it doesn't really matter. And we haven't even gotten to Sankhya, the philosophy of enumeration, which is practically a prerequisite for understanding the teachings of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So, the surprising truth about yoga philosophy that most teachers won't tell you is this. It's not one path with one map. It's a whole landscape of traditions, each with its own compass. Just as there may be many paths up a mountain for a hiker to choose from, with different kinds of trees, rocks, streams, plants, animals, and vistas along each trail, the path of yoga is actually many possible paths, each of which reveals different features and viewpoints on how to understand ourselves, the world, and the hows and whys of where it all comes from. So, if you hear someone say something about what the teachings of yoga say, that's when you say, which teachings of yoga? Despite the many different schools of yoga, there's one thing that they all tend to agree on. The best way to truly understand yoga philosophy is to learn from a qualified teacher. Case in point, after giving Arjuna, the hero of the Bhagavad Gita, a long list of sacrifices that a karma yogi can perform, Krishna suggests the means by which one can acquire knowledge about any path of yoga when he says, you can learn the truth about these sacrifices by approaching a spiritual master with humility, offering service, and making relevant inquiries. The wise can impart this knowledge unto you, for they are seers of the truth. In every yoga tradition, the teacher's role is to dispel the student's doubts, prescribe a suitable practice, and inspire faith in pursuit of the ultimate goal. So, if you want to understand what traditional yoga philosophy says about mental health or politics, or the nature of consciousness or the origins of the universe, find a teacher you trust who can answer your questions. With any luck, the answers you receive will be satisfying, your doubts will be dispelled, Your faith in the process will be validated, and you will gain momentum on the path of yoga that you've chosen. Now, like any teacher, I can only speak from the perspective of the lineage I've studied and practiced in, sharing what I've heard from my teachers and understood through my own experience. Just remember, there is not one single viewpoint in yoga philosophy. There are many, and each one offers a different point of view. So, if there's a question you'd like to hear my take on, or if you're wondering how to navigate the different perspectives within the greater yoga tradition, drop a comment below. If this gave you something to think about, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more reflections like this one. And if you're curious to go deeper, there are some resources linked in the description. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.